afternoon and welcome to Giants Talk with Brad Moylan. Thanks a lot for joining me. We have breaking news. The Giants have hired a general manager. They have picked Cubs assistant GM Scott Harris to partner with Farhan Zaidi in the baseball operations department and lead the Giants organization forward. Harris broke into the big leagues in 2008 with the Washington Nationals as an intern, also worked with the Cincinnati Reds before becoming the director of minor league baseball operations in the commissioner's office. In 2010, he worked there from 2010 till 2011 before the Cubs hired him to be their director of baseball operations. He was their director of baseball ops for 5 years before being promoted to the assistant GM position in 2018, where he served the past 2 years. Harris earned his degree in economics from UCLA in 2009 and earned his master's in business administration from the University of Northwestern's Kellogg School of Business in 2015. Harris is from Redwood City, California, so he is a Bay Area native and very familiar with the area. And by hiring Harris, Zaidi is looking for a similar partnership that the Cubs have with Theo Epstein and Jed Hoyer, in that Harris will likely serve as an assistant to Farhan Zaidi rather than the chief decision maker. Zaidi will likely make quite a few of the decisions, but they wanted a well-rounded baseball executive to serve in that GM, quote-unquote, assistant role. Harris certainly has worked his way up and earned this opportunity. Many people had viewed him as a future general manager, and at age 32, Alex Pavlovich points out that he is the youngest GM now in Major League Baseball. It will certainly be interesting to see how things move forward, as Harris will get right to work and go to the GM meetings with Farhan Zaidi Monday through Thursday in Scottsdale, Arizona. In addition to the Giants hiring a general manager, the manager search continues. It was reported this week that Pedro Grifol is no longer a candidate to replace Bruce Bochy, and instead Matt Quatraro has stepped in as a third finalist, the Tampa Bay third base coach. Quatraro was included in the Giants' first round of interviews, but it wasn't clear until this week that he indeed is a finalist for the position. Quatraro coached at several different levels of the Rays minor league system for 6 seasons before being promoted to the minor league hitting coach for all of the organization. He held that position from 2010 to 2013, and then the Cleveland Indians hired him to be their hitting coach from 2014 to 2017 before he came back to the Rays, serving as the third base coach in 2018 and now the bench coach in 2019. He took over for Charlie Montoyo this year as the bench coach, as Montoyo was hired away to be the manager of the Toronto Blue Jays. The Rays and the Astros, I tell you what, they're very good at generating future managerial candidates, as just 2 years after Alex Cora was hired away from the Astros and managed the Boston Red Sox to a World Series championship, Joe Espada is a finalist for the Giants job, and only a year after Montoyo was hired by the Blue Jays, another Rays bench coach is in the conversation to become a manager. There's a lot of news surrounding Espada as well, as he was in for his second interview with the Giants this past week, and according to Mark Feinsand, the Giants came away very impressed. People around the organization believe that Espada is the odds-on favorite to become the Giants manager. Gabe Kapler is still involved along with Quatraro, and the manager is expected to be announced this week, especially after the GM was just hired. It appears that Zaidi was interested in hiring the GM first and then bringing in the manager. I would be ready for the manager announcement at any point. Along with all this busyness of hiring prominent front office positions and looking for Bruce Bochy's successor, Farhan Zaidi did have time to claim a few players off of waivers this week, as he claimed Rico Garcia, Trevor Oakes, and Keen Wong off of waivers. Garcia is a 25-year-old right-handed pitcher the Giants claimed from the Colorado Rockies. In 2019, in Double-A ball, he was 8-2 with a 1.85 earned run average, striking out 87 in 68 innings pitched. He then moved up to Triple-A ball, where he went 2-4 with a 6.90 earned run average, with 51 strikeouts and 61 1/3 innings pitched. He did have a brief opportunity to get his feet wet in the big leagues, and with the Rockies this year, he was 0-1 with a 10.50 ERA, with 2 strikeouts and only 6 innings pitched. The Giants had an open spot in the 40-man roster. Garcia was the guy they chose to fill it with, and his Double-A numbers are just too good. It's certainly worth taking a chance on for the Giants. These are the type of guys that Farhan has been able to acquire, and some have turned into gems. You look at Yastrzemski, Dickerson, Trevor Gott. Who knows? Maybe this is the next Trevor Gott. But Zaidi likes to acquire these players, and then he may designate them for assignment at some point, send them through the waivers process, see if he can get them through waivers without using up those valuable roster spots. I would imagine that's what he's planning to do with Garcia, but we will just have to see. Keen Wong is a second baseman. The Giants claimed him off of waivers from the Los Angeles Angels. He was a fourth-round pick by the Tampa Bay Rays in 2013. He's a left-handed hitter, and this year in AAA, Durham, that was with the Tampa Bay Rays organization, whom he was with before they waived him, and he was thus picked up by the Angels. Anyway, in AAA, he had 307 with a 375 on base and a 464 slugging percentage. He had 10 homers and knocked in 63. His brief time in the major leagues this year, he had time with the Rays and the Angels in the major leagues, and he went 3 for 18 with no extra base hits. He is the brother of Colton Wong, the Cardinals' second baseman. In another situation where the AAA numbers are very good, and they're certainly worth taking a chance on. 18 plate appearances is nothing in terms of a sample size in the major leagues. So obviously, Wong probably felt pressure to perform, knowing that he maybe didn't have that long of a leash in the big leagues. So we'll see if he ends up in big league camp and spring training. He likely will if he remains on the 40-man roster, although like I mentioned with Garcia, a similar process may occur with Wong if Zaidi sees another guy that he wants to claim that he might risk losing these players through waivers. The third player, Trevor Oakes, a right-handed pitcher. He was claimed off of waivers from the Kansas City Royals. He's 26 years old, and Farhan Zaidi has a lot of experience with Oakes. He initially drafted him in the 7th round of the 2014 draft, and then traded him to the Royals in a deal that brought Scott Alexander, the left-handed reliever, back to Los Angeles. That deal was made in 2015. Oakes was out all of 2019 with hip surgery, cost him to miss the whole season. He did pitch in the Fall League this year, but we're going to take a step back and look at his 2018 numbers. He spent time in AAA with the Royals in 2018, going 8-8 with a 3.23 earned run average, striking out 70 in 128 1/3 innings pitched. And in his brief big league experience, it didn't go so well for him. He was 0-2 with a 7.24 earned run average, with 10 strikeouts in 13 2/3 innings pitched. He did have a nice Arizona Fall League, though, coming off surgery this year, in which he went 0-2 with a 4.50 earned run average, striking out 11 in 12 innings pitched. He does throw 5 pitches as a starter, so it'll be interesting to see if he continues with that 5-pitch repertoire well with the Giants, or if they try to take a couple pitches off and allow him to really hone in on just a few pitches to see if they can gain the most value out of a few of his offerings. The Giants did have to clear a couple of roster spots to make room for Wong and Oakes, and that resulted in designating Mike Gerber for assignment. Gerber went 1 for 24 this year in the big leagues with the Giants, but he had a real nice AAA season, hitting .308 with 26 homers and 83 knocked in. The issue with Gerber with the Giants was just making contact. You know, he came up when the Giants were playing Cincinnati in early May, and I remember his first at bat, he hammered one in the right center for a double, and it was like, whoa, he's really backing up his AAA numbers, but he really just tailed off. He struggled to make contact. He looked overmatched at the plate. And Gerber, after being designated for assignment, he elected free agency, so he likely won't be back with the Giants in 2020. They also DFA'd Ricardo Pinto, a right-handed pitcher that Zaidi had claimed in early September off waivers from the Tampa Bay Rays. And as far as I can tell, Pinto never threw a pitch for the Giants in their minor league system, and he is now pursuing a deal with one of the teams in the Korean baseball organization. That's going to do it for today's episode. Thanks for joining me, and be sure to stay tuned to keep an eye out for the next episode of Giants Talk with Brad Moylan. Have a great evening.